Okay, welcome to my channel. If you are new, you'll quickly find out that I have the largest library of low-income housing videos, as well as other resources like how to get food, how to get your utilities, and an abundance of other resources that can either give you discounts or help you improve your living situation. Okay, my videos are made specifically for those that are low income, really low income, and also the homeless. Okay, so if you're one of those three categories, then this is a great channel to be at. Now today for our 9 a.m. news, and I do these every day if you're interested in that type of thing, we'll be covering emergency Section 8 housing vouchers. Okay, and we'll get into that here shortly. Now what that is besides the manuals, and I'm going to show you that stuff on my own website, but besides having the employee operation manuals that tell you everything they know, we're going to dig a little bit deeper and look at what their focus is on being able to give people a voucher almost the same day, maybe being able to give you vouchers even when the waiting list is closed. Okay, so we're going to take a look at that and see those few rare exceptions, and maybe you'll get lucky with that. Okay, another thing I want to talk about is taking a look at an article this morning about the HEROES Act. Now obviously we all know what that is. It's been written out, and of course when it gets passed in the Senate, the Republicans will decide what they want to alter from there. So we're going to take a look at that and see where they're sending the funding for all of this. Okay, and then you can figure out how much support's going to be given to people that are homeless and low income, that are seniors and all of that. So just some useful information. The other thing I want to tell you is at noon, I normally do special interest or EDU or education. So today we'll also be discussing applications and documentation. Look guys, 20 years ago when you went out and you had to apply for things, you had to spend, you wait in lines, then you may or may not have the right paperwork, and so you end up going to all these different places, and it takes a half a month to do, to complete all these different tasks. Things have changed a lot. Resources are now pooled into buildings all at one time in some cases. And so, that video will be about the application process and documentation. Okay, I'll give you an expert list of things that you need to bring, and let me give you some advice from my perspective. Okay, spent 10 years out on the streets, crossed 20 states, lived in 7 cities. I went from street level all the way up through HUD and all the way back to a normal life on several occasions. Okay, I know the system very well. How else could I make so many videos so quickly? It's because I know all the things up here. I don't need to read around the internet and pretend to be something that I'm not, like a lot of videos that I see on YouTube. These people go and research, because they really don't have any earthly idea what they're talking about. But anyways, this documentation list is going to be really good. And one of the other things we'll expand on is the Section 8, which is really important to a lot of people. Going to give you some really, we're going to really focus real tight on that, so you know precisely what to expect and bring from that. Okay. The other thing I want to talk to you about is, we were just talking about resources being all spread out, and then we get, now that we're in 2020 and going forward, a lot of these resources are being pooled by organizations in a primary building. Now, what they call these things are resource hubs, day centers, drop-in centers, and navigation centers. Okay, if you've heard those names before, because it's usually the connotation is behind homeless people trying to access these resources. Okay, make no mistake, you can be low income and access these things as well. Okay, look, any resource you're going to access that's free is going to take time. You possibly have to wait in line. At least you can try to do it in one place. Okay, these navigation centers, man, have just about everything there. And with as little as even a homeless letter or you just vouching for yourself, you could have the keys to the kingdom when it comes to that situation of getting all these resources. Okay, let's move on to the actual news. So first we're going to do the emergency Section 8 housing voucher. Now before we move on to that, I want to tell you that if you want to access this information that I'm talking about or read it for yourself, you can go to www.hudhousing.weebly.com. The reason it's not just simply .com, but weebly.com, it's a free site. I don't really see a point in having to pay for this. Okay, here's the actual site. You'll notice that there's a tremendous amount of resources already in this little website. here are all the actual HUD manuals, okay? So when they train their people to categorize you, put you on a priority, put you on a list, everything they know are in all these manuals, okay? You won't find better information out there, ever. If you've got these, you really do have, this is the golden egg that you've probably all been looking for. The one you'd want to focus on, obviously, is going to be Chapter 5, Eligibility and Denial of Assistance. It literally gives you a roadmap to what you need to do in order to work this system, okay? Now, what I have added to this that we're going to be talking about this morning is if you scroll to the bottom, you will find that I put the emergency Section 8 HUD housing choice vouchers, okay? Written more for an algorithm than a page, but so anyways, priority. Let me move up this so you can kind of see it. So I'm going to summarize this because I know nobody likes to hear somebody drag on forever, but let's go on down. Look, DV, domestic violence, okay? You guys have a pretty good chance. So if you're a female or a male that's been abused by somebody else, then there is a possibility that you can simply walk in, even on a closed waiting list, and they can potentially give you a voucher, okay? Another thing is, we'll roll down a list here. Senior citizens and elderly. Depending on the situation and the medical problems that a senior may have, may eliminate the process of you even having to bother. See, the thing about it is, you guys, when you hear closed waiting list, you think that's just the end of it, okay? That is the end of the conversation until they reopen it. That's not true, okay? It is absolutely not true. Roughly 30% of that housing still remains available. They just keep it a secret and only let counselors and other people know through different charities and organizations that this amount of housing is open only if you meet the secret criteria. So let's just expose what those secret criteria might be, and then you can go apply even if the damn list is closed, okay? So senior and elderly that obviously have medical problems, there's a potential they could be issued a voucher whether the list is closed. If you're disabled or have a mental or physical issue with enough severity, okay, you couldn't even the situation, you wouldn't want to have that person on the street because they could probably die, okay? You wouldn't put somebody with cerebral palsy, if they get evicted out of the apartment, they get nowhere to go, nobody to take care of them. That would be a situation where you would need to immediately house them. So Section 8 would move very quickly to have them housed, probably within 24 hours with a voucher or to work with their care aides, okay? Veterans have a great deal of benefits. And I always encourage people that are VA veterans to go through the actual VA because, you guys already have a great deal of preference when it comes to things. So it's really never necessary to go through HUD directly or even a COC. You can simply go to the VA and you're not given absolution to the top of the list, okay? So don't confuse that. You're given priority, but it's just like people that think that if you're a minority or you're a minority with children that instantly grants you a key to a voucher. It doesn't, okay? Things have changed a lot because now we're basing all of these rules on principle on who needs things the most and not what we used to do in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, okay? So anyways, veterans, yeah, that's what you'd want to do. Anyone displaced from another public housing unit. So if you've already got this stuff and it kicked you out, then you absolutely have the responsibility of rehousing you very quickly, even if the list is closed, okay? Men, women, children fleeing domestic violence, okay? And that includes people that are from other countries that are here on a legal basis, okay? If you're fleeing any type of violence, as I mentioned earlier in this, that could instantly probably grant you a voucher. If they have one to give you, they will likely give it to you if the situation calls for it, okay? Even if they don't, they say, look, it's going to be a couple of months. They still have the option to run you through a different program that can house you while you wait. But it's a lot better than you waiting for that waiting list to reopen 5 years. So don't be disappointed if they say, look, let's run you through another program while we wait for a voucher, okay? Another one is if your life, down south here, we get hit by hurricanes, and it really does, it devastates the community, and it happens every 4 or 5 years. For you guys up north, you deal with epic floods, sometimes snowstorms, And, you know, the people that are on the West Coast deal with fires that destroy millions of acres. So when you go through a natural disaster like that, typically when you operate through dealing with FEMA will shoot you back to HUD, which then, even if a waiting list is closed, that is the most opportune time to go down there and get a voucher despite it being closed. So I just want to tell you guys, you know, just because somebody says no on the phone don't mean jack. You need to go down there, go to the door, and tell them, look, I know that you have vouchers specifically designed for these situations, you know, and that's what I'm applying for. Okay, I'm not going to apply later. Don't send me to apply online. I want to apply for the reserve of vouchers, okay? Because that's what it's specifically designed. Like I said, these people are never going to tell you this stuff, okay? HUD likes to communicate this stuff to the counselors and stuff like that, and they don't want to tell anybody for obvious reasons, because everybody would then flood the system. Well, I'm telling you, that is the reality. They do have these things, and sometimes you may have to go through a counselor or a social worker to get that referral that gives you enough juice to be able to walk in the building and actually get one of these. But now you know this stuff's available, okay? Next thing what I'm going to do is move over to the HEROES Act, and let's take a look at some of the financials. First of all, you can find a link to this article for this person. It was published by Chris Holden. This guy's got some really good information about a lot of different things. So they're looking at $100 billion for emergency rental assistance. So that basically breaks down to HUD vouchers, okay, and also ESG and among other things. But yeah, they got about $11 billion for ESG and homeless providers, okay. Just forget about that $11 billion. It's going to go into shelters, and we all know that homeless shelters, you know, typically don't spend much on homeless people. They usually spend it on administration, the light bulb, stuff like that. So don't expect to get anything but a roll of socks and maybe a prayer. Okay, so just forget about that $11 billion. $75 billion for homeowner assistance fund. Look, you know, you guys that have homes that the air conditioner's not working, stuff like that. You know, I've told you all about how you can get home improvements for free, or at least apply to get it. So that's what that would go into. Another $300 million into the USDA. So the USDA thing is, I made a video specifically about owning a HUD home, okay, and having zero down, so that zero down payment, almost zero interest, and then, you know, you have 15-30 year mortgage. And for people that are extraordinarily low income, so that means that just about anybody that's willing to work for a year can get a home. So anyways, that's what that money's going into. If you want to purchase your own $50,000 HUD home, new or used, that's what those funds would go into. The only requirement is you need to live outside the city limits, okay? Next up, $2 billion in public housing. Okay, so we all know what public housing is. It's a little bit different than vouchers. It just means the state owns the apartment complex, it owns the houses, it owns the permanent supportive housing. So rather than a landlord or an individual, the state will own it. So, you know, if you've ever seen videos on Chicago, New York's projects, that's what that is, okay? And there's not a whole lot of that. They're not making much more of that stuff anymore. It's mostly just for disabilities and permanent supportive housing, okay? Okay, you got $1 billion for HCV, which is Housing Choice Voucher. And to be honest with you, $1 billion is not that much once you divide it about 50 states. And considering that a single city can have 90,000 applicants, 90,000 times 5,000 cities, it's really just a drop in the bucket. But hey, that's nothing to cry about. At least there's a potential to get something out of that. And so, yeah, if you roll through the list here, you'll see that there's a lot of different things. I would encourage you to read the whole article, because we're within weeks, possibly a month or so, from these things happening. And though you won't feel a direct impact from this, just like when you elect an official, you know, they're out there doing things for you, but you may not see a direct impact, like, you know, Donald Trump coming to your house and handing you a check, but he's working behind the scenes to do certain things. So same thing with this stuff. If it gets passed, you know, you're not going to get a check in the mail, but these things are in the work, and they are improvements, okay, if it happens. So I'm going to check the time real quick and see where we are. So we're at 14 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and close it out. I hope y'all have enjoyed the video and the quality and the sound, and I'm going to continue to work on it, and hopefully it does get better by the next video. Okay? Thank you. Bye.